Hey, this is a really weird angle. I'm just laying on my sofa and reading, and I wanted to tell you the first book that I finished this month. I did a reread. I've been having a lot of anxiety lately. It's been like 2 months. I get these overwhelming, I'm sure other people can relate to this, but I get this overwhelming feeling of where has time gone? Life is moving so fast. And it's something that can kind of like swallow me up a little bit. I get like classic anxiety symptoms and all of that. So I've been kind of leaning towards comfort shows, comfort movies, comfort books. And I mentioned in my March favorites that I rewatched the Sex and the City movie, and that kind of inspired me to. I decided that I wanted to reread the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Now, I read this book when I was like 21, and my best friend read it as well. I reread it, and I loved it. I read it over the course of a couple days. This is definitely like a young adult book, so I don't know that an older reader who's never read it before would love it, but it was really nice to just read something easy, but it felt comforting. One of my favorite things actually about this book that I had forgotten was before each chapter, it has these quotes. And it's just, this one is, the problem is not the problem is your attitude about the problem. Got that? And it's Coach Brevin. So sometimes it's characters from the book, like something they said. And sometimes it's just like, you know, the Dalai Lama or something like that. And I really like that. I've always been someone who like writes down quotes. I used to actually like really actively collect quotes, and now I don't do that as much, but I really liked reading these. I kind of want to watch the movies. I probably will at some point when I need like a nice chick flick to chill out to. I think that's all I need to say about this. I'm excited about all of the books that I have to read from the library, so we'll see how many I get done. Hey, I kind of feel like this angle filming makes my house look very messy. It's really just because of this area. It's just book central and then that weird pillow. Anyway, I have been feeling very like blah this week, but I'm gonna try not to dawdle too much. I finished Where'd You Go, Bernadette? I read this last weekend actually, and then I promptly got a terrible migraine that lasted me a couple days, so I didn't get to do the review. The whole story is told pretty uniquely. It's told through like emails, notes, different things like that, I guess. And so that kind of took me out of the story sometime until I really got used to it. The basic premise is that it's this, Bernadette is this kind of wacky, not even wacky, she's just like a unique kind of creative type that has moved to a place that doesn't really accept her, and she, I think, doesn't really want to fit in. She's, I guess, agoraphobic, kind of, and she's kind of lost her creative, she's kind of lost her creativity and just doesn't really like people, and through a series of events, she tries to plan a trip for her daughter. So she takes off, and her husband and daughter are, I guess, gonna try to find her. I ended up really liking it towards the end. Just for some reason, the formatting of it just really took me a long time to get into, but I would tell people to read it. I think other people would like this. This might be harder to listen to on audio, I think, because it's shifting perspectives so often, like emails and stuff. I think that might get confusing on audio, but this is a good one. The other one is a super popular book. It's called The Woman in the Window, and this is one that I keep seeing. Of course, it's being compared to like The Girl on the Train and Gone Girl, and it's, I guess, kind of similar vibes, not really a similar story necessarily, except for that it's a woman is the protagonist. The main character is Anna and she is agoraphobic. She lives in her home, does not leave her home. You find out the reason why. You find out why her family isn't living with her, and she sees something through the window one night and tries to figure things out. She, like, I guess similar to Gone Girl and Girl on the Train, she is an unreliable narrator. So you're kind of like, through the whole story, you're kind of like on her side, but then you're like, but is she crazy? Is she, you know, whatever, and you don't really know all of the pieces. I will say that I guessed at what the ending was going to be, but I wasn't 100% sure. So it's definitely, I think this is worth a read. I read this in 2 days. I really liked it. And one of the things I actually really like about this one is that the chapters are really short. So it's just like, they're all dated, and it's just like a couple pages and then the chapter's done. I really like that because it makes it very easy to start and stop if you need to. And I feel like it just makes the story feel like it's moving faster, even though it's obviously just the same amount of pages. This one I was going to listen to on Audible, but a lot of the reviews said the narrator wasn't that great. I feel bad saying that about people. But that was what a few of the comments said. So I decided to read this, and I'm actually glad I did, because I think I felt like I could read this a lot faster. With mysteries, I sometimes hate listening to them because I want it to move quicker. I can read faster if I need to. If I want to get through it, I can start hustling through, where an audiobook, you can't really, you can speed up an audiobook, but like that's not always ideal. So these two are both great reads. I apologize for the messy background, and now I'm gonna go do some yoga. Okay, see you in the next one. Hey, I got a tripod for my birthday. It's so nice, and now I'm able to kind of like prop you up on a pillow, and it's so nice. So I finished a book a few days ago that I need to return. It's due today, but it will not be returned today. It will be returned tomorrow from the library. And it is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This was one that I keep seeing. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it on the internet, and people keep talking about it, giving it really good reviews, and it was actually quite different than I was expecting. It kind of says on the front jacket just that, like, you know, maybe she's like a little bit of a loner until she, you know, there's like a little accident and she meets this guy, and things kind of change. So I thought it was going to be kind of more like romantic comedy-ish type thing. And really, Eleanor is a really unique character. When I hit probably like pages 30 to 50, I was really wondering if I was going to like this book. She's clearly, I wouldn't actually say clearly, she feels like she's on the autism spectrum, but also you know that something has happened in her past, so potentially it's just like traumatic issues or whatever, but she's very different, very particular. You know, people in her office kind of make fun of her, and I don't know that she's always absorbing it, but like you as the reader do. And she does in fact see a man have an accident, and one of her coworkers and her kind of become unlikely friends because of that. And I actually really liked it, and I'm glad that I finished it. I will say I read a Goodreads review, and this woman was like, you know, she clearly has autism, and no way in hell would she become friends or would she do all of these things or whatever. And that actually made me so irritated, and I tried to comment on it, obviously not like argumentatively, but just kind of saying like, hey, actually, you know, people with autism can do all sorts of things, you know, and that made me want to push through the book a little bit more. So maybe that negative review did more for me. But the one thing I will say is it has this weird little twist at the end, and it's similar to another book that I have read recently, but I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away if you have read that one at all. But I didn't expect it at all, and it was just this interesting little twist. You know, it doesn't change the whole story or anything like that, but I think this is definitely worth a read, and I think I I wish that I would have known it wasn't going to be so like romantic comedy easy read, because it wasn't a difficult read, but it was just very different than what I was expecting, but ended up really, really loving it. So this is a super good one. I feel like every single book that I've read this month has been good, and I would tell people to read it. So that is it. It is the 23rd of April today. So hopefully I'll have at least one more for you. Okay. Hey, I just got home and it is April 30th and I finished my last book of the month. I read the second summer of the Sisterhood, the second one of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants series. There are 5 in total. I'm totally gonna read all of them in the next probably like couple months. I had to order this. This is one that I did not own, and I'm so glad I did. I loved this one because it continues obviously this kind of silly notion that like this pair of jeans can like be worn by all of them. But I loved in this one that there's a spider on my screen. I just noticed. Does everybody, so I live in the upper Midwest. I've mentioned this before. This has nothing to do with what I was going to talk about, but every single year on my screen door and on my bedroom window, I always end up getting one of those tiny little like jumping spiders that live there for the summer, fall time. And is that normal? Because I get one every single year. I leave them alone because they don't tend to like wander out. I really don't like spiders, but I don't kill or remove those ones. Does anybody else have that every year? Am I crazy? Feeling very self-conscious also that I'm in my tank top, but I just walked home. It's super nice here. My car is currently getting some maintenance done on it. So I had to walk home and I just got a little warm because it's like 75 degrees finally. Anyway, so in this story, all 4 girls just have a little bit of something going on with them. And I love that they portray all 4 of them, maybe not in the best light. And I think that's really nice because I think if you are someone who reads this, probably primarily female, but like obviously men can relate to this as well. You can relate to the fact that we are not always perfect and sometimes we think we're super in the right and we're not. So I really liked that. There is just something about these for me right now that just feels like it's feeding that part of my soul that wants to like reminisce, or because I don't want to live in the past. I'm not like that, but I'm definitely feeling that life moving too quickly things still, and for some reason these books feel like an anchor to me, or feel like I'm able to like reminisce, or I don't know exactly how to describe that, but it feels nostalgic kind of. I've only read them once before, so it's not like rereading something that I was like passionately in love with, but anyway, I would recommend these if you're into like a younger YA kind of thing. They're really easy to read, you know, nice talking about like first loves and stuff like that, but also first heartbreaks and all the other stuff that it is to be like a 16, 17-year-old girl. So that is what I read this month. I appreciate it if you watched it. I would love to know, actually, I know I always say this, I tend to not get as much interaction on my reading videos, which I kind of understand, because if you haven't read those books or something, you maybe don't feel like you have anything to say. But I would love to know if you read anything interesting this month, whether it's like poetry. It was National Poetry Month this month. Read a novel, read part of a novel, read an article. I would love to know if you read anything that was interesting this month. I just started one today called Love, Lucy, and it's Lucille Ball's biography that was her own words. So that is, I think they're calling it an As Told To biography. I'm really excited to read that, and hopefully I will have a good review of that in next month's What I Read. So yeah, let me know if you've read anything, and again, thank you so much for watching these. I really appreciate it. I love filming these, and I love talking about what I'm reading. So that is everything. Talk to you later.